If you felt recently that the stories we are told don't match the reality we're living in, you aren't alone. Professor Jiang points out exactly why that disconnect exists. He looks at Plato's famous allegory of the cave, where prisoners spend their entire lives staring at shadows on a wall, and he says he isn't being poetic, he's being literal. The stock market, the national borders, the rules-based global order, none of these are physical laws of nature. They are shadows. We built an entire language around them and fight wars over them, but they only exist because we collectively agree to look at the wall and believe they're real. Jiang points out the engine running this projection. He is describing something closer to modern alchemy. The true raw material powering our world isn't petroleum or labor hours. It is human consciousness. When you focus your attention to create something, your awareness gives it value. At the end of the week, you trade that conscious focus for a paycheck. That money is simply frozen attention. You take your actual life energy, box it up, and store it in pieces of paper and digital digits. Seen from this angle, the global economy stops looking like a system of free trade. It functions as a highly engineered extraction machine, built specifically to harvest human awareness from billions of people and concentrate it into the hands of a very small group. This design spans centuries. Those of the top of the hierarchy have consistently constructed massive storage devices to soak up generations of human attention and secure our compliance. Think about the millions of Egyptians pouring their focus, belief, and physical energy into these stones. These structures operated as literal concentration camps for human consciousness, absorbing the life force of an entire civilization. Today, fiat currency serves as that storage device. Government-issued money backed entirely by collective trust. Every time you work, save, or spend, your attention is efficiently trapped as digital numbers in offshore accounts. You aren't a prisoner being held against your will. You are a volunteer. Every morning you wake up, log on, and participate, you actively pour your life force into an extraction system designed by someone else. Jiang refers to the architects of this system as the game masters. These aren't elected officials or CEOs. They are the individuals who wrote the rulebook and set the board, sitting completely outside the reach of democratic voting or government oversight. At the very apex of this structure is the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. It acts as the central bank of central banks, quietly dictating financial terms to global governments. These game masters engineered a specific price hierarchy. They priced the physical things you actually need to survive, like oil, gas, and food, as the cheapest layer. They placed manufacturing above that, knowledge and software above that, and at the very top, valuing abstract numbers the highest, sits finance. This creates a rigid global board. Russia and the Middle East are assigned to sell resources. China is slotted into manufacturing. Europe and the Anglosphere own the knowledge economy, and the United States sits at the finance apex, collecting rent on everything below. If a nation refuses to play its assigned role, it is locked completely off the board. When countries like Iran sit on massive resources but refuse to quietly sell them for dollars, the system reacts with crippling sanctions. Modern wars and color revolutions rarely start over ideology. They are mechanical enforcement actions. When a player stops following the rules, the game masters move to protect the board. This raises a major logistical question. If everyone decided tomorrow that the game was over, the elite's tiny security forces would be overrun in an hour. How do they enforce this massive structure against 8 billion people without physical force? They rely on 3 invisible pillars. Intelligence agencies co-opt foreign leaders. Transnational crime creates shared financial liabilities, turning enemies into business partners. And the scientific establishment is funded strictly to find evidence that justifies the status quo. To run this network, the system uses operators. These are individuals trained to move seamlessly across finance, crime, and intelligence. Jeffrey Epstein started out moving arms and money long before he built an operation to compromise powerful people. When a nation like Libya collapses, these operators aren't watching the humanitarian crisis. They are looking at balance sheets, coordinating how to secure frozen assets, seize oil reserves, and win the reconstruction contracts. You see the same pattern with figures like Jared Kushner. While negotiating Middle East policy through diplomatic channels, his network positions itself to move massive investments, deciding who gets the contracts and land grabs once the dust settles. But the operators only handle the top layer. To keep the rest of us in line, universities, mainstream media, and pop culture run 24/7. Instead of reporting objective facts, they condition us to believe that this rigid hierarchy is a fair, natural order, and that working hard inside the system is the only path to success. The ultimate form of control is consensus. The game masters don't need thought police to enforce the rules. We are so emotionally welded to our shared hallucination that if anyone tries to point out the shadows are fake, the other prisoners will gladly destroy them. Right now, a major conflict is fracturing that elite structure. The old world relies on the US dollar, a storage device that requires your physical labor and attention. The new world is racing towards artificial intelligence, a system that generates its own focus and its own value, cutting human consciousness out of the loop entirely. That conflict reveals the system's fatal flaw. The massive, terrifying architecture holding us in place has absolutely zero intrinsic power. It cannot exist without our collective belief. Once you recognize the mechanisms manipulating you, the heavy iron chains you thought were holding you down transform into ribbons. They fall away the moment you stop pulling against them. Actively fighting the system is a trap. If you shout about the unfairness of the rules, you are still playing the game, validating the hallucination, and triggering the conditioned anger of everyone still invested in the illusion. The only way to starve the machine is to withdraw your conscious energy. You stop pouring your focus into the digital shadows, the endless news cycles, the digital numbers, the manufactured outrage, and you reinvest that attention into the physical, present world right in front of you. The door out of the cave was never locked. You don't have to overthrow the game masters to escape the board. You simply have to realize you're a volunteer and choose, right now, where to point your attention.